I do want to welcome everyone to be here. This is great things we're going to highlight, but I especially want to thank partnerships, because without partnerships, you can't get anything done. And I do want to say to Andrew Joyce, Chair of the Legislature, to the legislators that are here, Wanda Willingham, Paul Bertolf, thank you. To our controller, thank you for working with us and helping us with this budget. To Sheriff Apple, who's always been a great partner every year, working with us on the budget and being creative. To Bruce Hidley, to everyone that has continued to work with us to make sure that we give the quality of services that people expect in this county, to deliver them, to improve on them, and to always extend more services, but doing it in a fiscal conservative way, that we're not raising taxes and we're not chasing people out of the county, and taking care of our workers that take care of so many residents in Albany County. So this executive budget stays under the state mandated cap for the 10th straight year in a row. For the 10th straight year in a row. Says a lot about our leadership here in Albany County. So the executive budget's roughly $756 million, 0.8. It's an increase of 5.9% overall from last year, and that contributes to a couple things. But the national growth rate is 8%. And think about it, we're just about 6%. So staying under the national growth rate, but contributes to a lot of things: sales tax revenue, valuations of home, and so forth, but also putting in a 2% raise for non-union workers for next year is also included in this. That adds into the budget. So I do want to say, again, I can't thank my budget department, Dave Riley, enough, and his staff for working around the clock to get this done. To the commissioners in Albany County that do their job day in, day out, and are creative. Because the easiest thing to do when you do a budget and you say reduce it or stay within the means of your budget is to reduce personnel. And that's the first thing everyone says. Well, I got to lay off 10 people. No, you got to be creative, hire more people, but do it in a way that we stay in the property tax cap. So again, Dave, to you and your team, thank you. To Dan Lynch, my deputy county executive, for digging in with this budget and help us do these extraordinary things. To my whole team in my office, thank you so much. I really mean that. So, however, this budget keeps the tax levy exactly the same as 2022. Nothing changes. So, but I can't control your city, town, or village. Whatever their assessed value is different. So your localities, it will change from every locality based on how that city, town, or village set up their evaluation. So keep that in mind. But I just want to say this. We're at $3.45 per tax levy. And as of today, as if this budget goes through the legislature and gets done, it'll be $3.14. So we're dropping. And if you look at since 2014, we literally almost dropped 20% in a tax levy. I don't think there's a lot of counties around the state of New York and around this great nation that can say they reduced it by 20%. That's partnerships. That's working with our elected officials. That's working with the legislature, sharpening the pencils and getting things done. So I do want to say thank you. And again, we're the 9th lowest tax rate in the state of New York out of 62 counties. We're number 9. I take pride in that. I'd like to beat Saratoga someday, but they have a Racino and 2 tracks, and we have a population of 320,000 people. Saratoga is roughly 200. If you look at the other surrounding counties around us that are a lot less than us, half of us, they're like 25, 27% of the highest taxes in the state. We are fiscally prudent with the money that we put together in our budget every year to operate. So again, I do want to say thanks, everyone. So the other thing I want to talk about, the sales tax forecast in this budget is $326 million that we're budgeting. And some of the other things I do want to highlight in this budget, working with the chair of the legislature and with Dennis Feeney, the majority leader, and a few other people, coming up with ways we can do to service and pivot. I said this 3 years ago when I was talking to Steve Hughes from the Times Union, and he asked me, I think it was week 2 of COVID, he said, what scares you? I said 23 and 24. I said, you can't shut government down and do what we're doing and not have a ripple effect. And what I take pride in as county executive, we're not kicking the can down for the next county executive, for the next legislature. We're living within our means and giving a budget that we can live with today and tomorrow, and not saying, hey, the next person 10 years from now is going to have to deal with that issue. That's what I take pride in. Because it's easy in government to kick the can down the road and not take responsibility for the decisions you have to make today. And again, thank you to the legislature for that. But to continue moving in that direction, this budget includes $4 million for Sustainable Technology and Green Energy Act, also known as the STAGE Act. This will support projects that reduce Albany County's reliance on fossil fuels, including hydrogen and with offshore wind developments. I've said this before, I want to be the greenest county in the state of New York. I want to be the greenest county in the nation. As we invest more money into areas like this, it has its paybacks. If you look at the Albany County Alliance that we created and wrote in my office and with the partnership with the legislature, if you can I'll pick just one project that many that Kevin O'Connell and Lucas Rogers is working on, plug power. To keep them in Albany County, to have them continue to believe in Albany County, and to grow where they're growing, it's going to create 1,300 jobs. 1,300 good paying jobs in Albany County. And wouldn't have happened without the Alliance and without Kevin, Luke, and everyone to the right of me, Dave and Dan, working with the legislature. This wouldn't have been possible. If you look at the Windshore and the opportunities and companies that are going to come from all over the world to do business here in Albany County, because it's easy when you have a one-stop shop, so to speak, and you have people promoting what we're doing here and the opportunities that they have here. And most importantly, our most valued resource, our people in this county. That's what we have to offer to these companies in quality of life. We also included $3 million in Albany County Improvement Initiative funding with focuses on projects that will have the most impact on communities throughout the county. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you to you and Dennis. We sat down early and talked about this. Talked to it with Sheriff Apple. We talked about other people and saying, how can we do it? We have to be ready to pivot. We have to see the unforeseen. I've always said that when we were preparing, we never knew we were preparing for COVID-19. But we were ready to handle COVID-19. And we had the resources and the money to handle COVID-19. And it's the same thing going forward. We're in this recession. People are having a hard time. I say this all the time, paying the rent, paying the mortgage, buying bread. So I do want to say, though, as you see things go up, because the supply is going up, the demand, a service to get it there. So we need to be creative and we have to be ready, And as, people will say, oh, you're going to lower taxes. It's window shopping, people. It's window shopping. And I mean, it looks good to stand here as a politician and go, yeah, I lowered your taxes. But it's not doing the responsible thing to the people I'm in charge of. The people that need our services, from speech pathology to OT, transportation, health, mental health. I could just go through the whole list. Children, help with heat. It's not doing the responsible thing. But not raising taxes or a tax levy helps other people too, that they'll see somewhat of a savings. But this gives us a budget that we get to put out in the community that's going to solve all that. We also included $3.8 million for the amortization for our retirement. When I took over in 2012, we amortized over $38 million for people's retirement that works in Albany County. We're borrowing $15 million a year to make payroll. And we had less than $20 million in our reserves. Our reserves are stabilized now in the number we need to be at. And this payment we make, this last and final payments 3 years earlier, $3.8 million, it's going to save the taxpayers. We don't have to come up with 1.5 the following year, 1.5 the following year for the next 3 years. There's a savings. But it's also the reason why we have a good bond rating. Thank you, Controller, and everyone that has worked on that. Because when Tom DiNapoli has done his fiscal stress of every county, we haven't been on that list. We're not using one-shot wonders. We're doing things to pay our bills and move forward, and I take pride in that. We also put $250,000 into the Advanced Albany County Alliance and $250,000 into our land bank. As of today, we have over $4 million in our land bank in cash from county. Over $20 million assessed property value. It is one of the most successful land banks in the state of New York and the nation because we stand behind it. because we give them the money to get blighted properties back on the taxes, help people buy their first home. I mean, if you could hear the stories every day about people having the first opportunity to own the first house or buy a two-family house so they have an income so they can afford to live in the, own their own piece of property. Or they went in there and they just gutted it and fixed it themselves. That's what we're talking about. The other thing we did was add it, and it doesn't sound like a big number, but it's a program that has an effect on certain communities. $81,000 in funding for Healthy Homes program. This replaces a program the state used to fund through Department of Healthy Neighborhoods. For some reason, they stopped funding it. But we heard back from the community, we heard back from our health department how important this initiative has been and what it has done for communities. So we're funding that, and Cornell Cooperative Extension, in a partnership, is going to be running it for us in a partnership. So again, I do want to say we did add the 2% in there. I want to remind people, approximately 80% of our total budget is mandated. Mandated. We have no say in some of the stuff we do. It just got pushed down from the state. State pushed it down, pushed it down. Here you go, county. You're going to run this program. I'm not going to give you the money, but you got to run it. And that happens a lot. And I always like to show on the back of our budget the stuff that goes up, mandated, and the stuff that goes down, we control. The stuff that we control, local spending, has constantly gone down under our leadership. But I can't control the unfunded mandates. I can't control when the state tells us we have to spend money, or hey, we're going to raise the age and you got to do this, you got to do that. But we may get you the money. We'll let you know. 60% of it's from state and federal mandates, another 20% from local laws and resolutions. I'm proud to stand here to deliver this budget in these difficult times, do what's right for the people who put us in charge, and be responsible government. Again, it's easy to just say you're going to do this or lower that. To accomplish what we did is not possible without my commissioners, deputy commissioners, the supervisors, the workers, the elected officials, working with Sheriff Apple all these years, working with Bruce Hilly, working with Sue. Thank you. I can't thank you enough, and especially the partnership with the legislature. And we'll agree to disagree on a lot of things, but at the end of the day, we all have the same course of action, delivering quality services effectively to the people that put us in charge, and doing it reasonable where we balance it without have to raising taxes. And I want to remind everyone, there are so many loopholes now. If you go over the 2% property tax cap, we lose millions more, and I'm not even going to get into that. You can't even think of going over the cap like we did years ago. That's why this budget keeps it flat. And I want to thank my budget director, Dave Ryland, again, his team, my deputy, Dan Lynch, Jeff, everyone in my office that dug in and did this, my whole office. So again, thank you. Thank you to the legislature. And I look forward to some great debates and moving forward and continue to work for the people of this county. So thank you, everybody.